Welcome to the Kick Sugar Summit. This summit this year is extra special because we are launching our documentary project, which we hope will bring our message to millions. To kickstart our fundraising campaign, we have put together a Summit Super Bundle, which is packed with interviews, ebooks, success stories, and thousands of dollars of free gifts from our speakers. We're so excited about our documentary and super grateful for your support. Don't forget about our closing webinar, where we will summarize the top insights of the summit into a practical roadmap for lasting change. And a special thank you to our incredible sponsors and their life-changing products. Be sure to check them out. Thank you for being here. We hope you love the summit. We hope it changes your life. Welcome everybody today to an interview with Bitten Jonsson. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She has been an addiction specialist since 1985 and became ACRP certified in 1992. And then she became Sugar Addis certified in 1990. So basically what we're saying is Bitten's been on this path long before there were books, there was an internet, like 30 plus years. She awakened really early in her life to the fact, hey, wait a minute, this sugar stuff's addictive. I know drugs and alcohol. I come from that background. I'm trained in that. And sugar's no different. There's something going on here. And she never gave up. Yeah, she was a pioneer in Sweden, which is where she's currently living. She then became an international lecturer. She appeared on TV and radio stations across Sweden and Norway and Finland. And she's the author of 3 books. The first book was called Sugar Bomb in Your Brain, which was published in 2004 and revised in 2010 and again in 2016. She did a sugar-free cookbook, also published in twice.
Two, actually.
Two books, 2 cookbooks.
2 cookbooks.
Hey. And now she's working on a 3rd book. Do you know what the title's going to be yet?
Sugar Bomb in Your Brain.
Just the next edition, revision. Okay, same title.
Absolutely. The English version, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then she figured, I think the world needs a clear assessment tool. How does somebody truly definitively know? Because Bitten Jonsson is an RN, she's worked in the medical system. That's her paradigm. So she works really well with doctors and nurses and dietitians and the mainstream medical structure. And she put together something that she called Sugar, which is a diagnostic tool for sugar and carbohydrate addiction. She has previously served on the board of the Food Addiction Institute, and she has moved from working on the front line of working with people, helping them recover from sugar addiction, to becoming a world renowned expert who trains the next future generation of coaches working in this space. You can find Bitten at bittensaddiction.com. So that's Bitten with an S, bittensaddiction.com. Welcome, Bitten.
Florence, you are such a ball to talk to. You didn't miss a beat.
I got it all.
The story, so I don't have to. God, that's good. That's good.
In case you're new to somebody who's just joining us this year, can you tell us a little bit about your story, your path through addiction, and how you became literally the thing you've dedicated 30 plus years of your life to, and you just are still here, still doing it. So tell us a bit about your journey.
Well, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to work with sugar carb addicts. They choose me. And the thing was that I was an alcoholic, a very functional female alcoholic, and they hide more than ever because of the shame to be a woman and being an alcoholic, But my husband, at that time, he understood this. So he asked for help, which is the best thing in the world to do, because you can't conquer it with your relative, your family, yourself. Addiction is incredibly tough to deal with. So anyway, he asked this woman, and through her, I came into treatment. In 1985, the absolutely best treatment center I have seen so far, and I've been around still. They were my role model. They had this beautiful holistic treatment, and addiction was the brain illness, and they dealt with this as an illness. Okay, so anyway, I was there 6 weeks. And that's when I fell in love with addiction medicine. It became my passion, and I thought, I'm not going to go back and work traditional nursing. That's so boring. I'm going to work with addiction. So I started to learn more and more and more and more and work with it. And a big part of it was, excuse me, I have my water, was also attending self-help groups. And that's actually one of the best trainings I've done because that's when I listened to hundreds and hundreds of people, their experience, what happened, how did they come into recovery? And they were horrible stories. You can imagine, painful, miserable stories. But it was incredible to see their recovery, how they started to regain control over their life. So I was very smitten. I hated it at first. I don't want to go to any 12-step meetings, but and then finally I started to listen behind the words and to see, oh my goodness, big things is going on here. So anyway, then I was smoking at that time, and I didn't eat very well. I thought I ate well. I could eat, you know, ice cream one day and bacon the next day. But as a nurse, I had no training in nutrition. We never taught nutrition back then. This is many years ago, 32 years ago, when I started looking at that. So, but anyway, I knew nicotine was bad and smoking, so I thought I want to be healthier. So I quit smoking. And from first day of quitting smoking, I fell down in a bathtub with chocolate and ice cream. And I almost I almost didn't get up. I mean, you think, well, that's not so dangerous, so I need to reward myself with something. I didn't feel especially bad, but I wanted the reward, working a hard day and something that was yummy mummy. So I started to eat that. And almost a year later, I was very sick. Not so much, I didn't gain so much weight. I did gain weight. But the thing was that I was tired all the time. So I've told this story before. I almost killed myself out driving because I'd slept 14 hours. And you know how you almost fall asleep when your blood sugar plummets. You know this, you sit in a lecture or your brain just shuts off. And that happened to me several times a day. And the funny thing is that denial is really tricky. So then my brain thought, well, I probably have Lyme's disease or chronic fatigue, but there was a little voice telling me, you're not eating well. But I didn't want to hear that voice. I wanted to have my drug in the evening, ice cream and chocolate. But one day I spoke to a colleague of mine, an American lady, and I said, how come I could quit smoking and quit drinking, but I can't quit sugar and ice cream? And she looked at me, just very natural. And she said, you might be a food addict. And I almost fell backwards. I said, what's that? And I said, I don't have any problem with food. And I didn't. And I still don't have problems with real food. But if you talk chocolate and ice cream, boy, I could steal it and hide, lie, and sneak. That's really addiction. So anyway, the dots starting to be connected. And anyway, I heard about this training in Chicago, Lutheran General Hospital, with the pioneers in the field working with what they at that time called food addiction instead of alcohol, but on exactly the same model as for alcoholics and drug addicts. And I was working with that at that time here in Sweden in a treatment center. So I thought that's interesting. How's that going to go? So I went over and I started to learn about it. So I took care of my own problem and I realized, it's like when the light goes on, it's like, oh, yeah, of course, I'm an addict. Hoo-hoo. But I still didn't know a lot about nutrition or, a lot of other things, and certainly not about the metabolic syndrome. We never talked about that at that time, 32 years ago. So anyway, or what does the brain need, the fuel the brain need? But I started to I had some kind of a food plan, and that was not a food plan that I would approve today because it was still grain, although they were brown. And there was a lot of fruit and very low fat and very little of meat. So, but that was the food plan we were supposed to eat. And I had cravings like crazy. And then I was taught to weigh and measure because I overate on that food. And I thought that was horrible. I got worse of that. That type of control is not on my table. So anyway, I got much sicker then. Controlling and perfectionistic. And no, that was not good. But I can see that it is a useful tool for many. So it's not that I disapprove of it. It's just not my way. So I was still thinking, how do I reach satiety without having to fight like that? And I kept using, the support groups. And so there weren't any support groups at that time. I brought one of the support groups over from US. So, we didn't have a lot of that. And we talked about emotional eating. We didn't understand the addictive part of food, sugar and carbs at all. We thought we ate on feelings. But, pretty much knowing addiction, I realized that we ate on the feelings that the sugar and the carbs cost. So that was, talk about the runaround. So I came up with that anyway and started working with that concept, and that helped a lot. And then in 2005, I met this Swedish doctor, Annika Dahlqvist, and she had found low carb sort of by accident. She had been dieting all her life, and she was a GP. I worked with a lot of diabetes people and all that. And she got to know a diet doctor, Andreas Enfeldt. So, that's when we started to learn about low carb, high fat. So we threw away the old food plan and started to eat the new food plan. We're taking away a lot of the grains and that type of food. So we started to eat low carb. And that helped a lot. So many, many things improved. People felt better. They had more satiety. But there was still a lot of people that still binged and overate and relapsed. And then I learned about milk. I don't know how much you know about casein and A1 and A2 milk. Yeah, I'm not going to go into that here. But that was an incredible, interesting piece in the puzzle. And at that time, I had contact with a nutritional expert, and he sent me a couple of studies, and we both have looked for them. So this is so many years ago. But one was Australian, that casein from A1 cow and homogenized is when you change the molecular structure of casein. You know that. I see that on you. So, but anyway, so we realized that that's maybe why people had still a high insulin level and, of course, swinging blood sugar, and they couldn't stick to the food plan. So we started to take away all the dairy products except butter and ghee. And that worked even much better. And then, as you know, food addicts or sugar and carb addicts, which I prefer to call them, have had a lot of things happen in their life. And also the exposure to the drug has caused an incredible faulty rewiring of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is not functioning, the limbic system is in uproar. Excuse me, neocortex is high wired, but most of all, reptilian brain is on speed more with sugar and carb addiction than with alcohol and drugs. Why is that? Well, because eating is something you do from the day you're born. So, reptilian brain's instinct to eat is incredibly strong because that is about survival. And then all the systems you have in your reptilian brain, fight, flight, freeze, sex, and food, are overactivated. And a lot of time, people understand the reward center, the dopamine, And other neurotransmitters, dopamine is the conductor, so it affects many neurotransmitters, but many of them miss the functions in the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain, or lizard brain, is wired, ready wired when you're born. You don't rewire it. And it has no words. It doesn't learn from experience. It's a pretty street smart but stupid thing, right? It's a lizard. And I used to joke and say to my clients, well, you can't train a lizard to go heal. And all the dog people understand that. Cat people don't, they take a while for them to catch on, but dog people get it right away. Oh, yeah, no, I understand. So that's why, you have two very strong forces. So once you have developed an addiction, these two, of course, they love each other and they cooperate. So one kicks the other and the other one kicks the first. But then you have a third player here in this game. And here's where you need to understand metabolic dysfunction. Our body is not made for a lot of carbs, sugar and processed food and ultra processed food and, all these things. Because the pancreas is not made in the way to handle that. So what's going to happen if you eat a lot of carbs and sugar? Well, you get a highly overactive pancreas. And now it's going to squirt out tremendous amount of insulin because the sugar molecule is toxic in your blood vessels. That's what causes wear and tear and inflammation in your vessels. And we could go on talking about cholesterol there, but I'm not going to do that. But that's the interesting story where plaque in your body comes from. It's not from eating eggs and butter, I can promise you that. It is from the sugar. So anyway, now we have this high level of insulin, and the brain is very smart. It tries to protect you all the time, homeostasis. So now the brain going to say, hey, wait a minute. We cannot have all this insulin squirting, along in all your vessels and squeezing, pushing all the sugar into the cells and making fat. So we're going to shut off insulin. So the brain turns off the insulin receptor. And now you have something called insulin resistance, which is a horrible. That's, you have that for some years and that ends up as diabetes type 2. And the insulin resistance can be in your body, in your brain, in your skin, in your ovaries, and all over the place. And it causes a havoc of consequences. And of course, when all the blood empties from the sugar, your blood sugar runs too low. And then what's your brain going to say? Hey, you got to eat, Your blood sugar is too low. But, what you ate is not utilized. Are you with me? It's locked in the cell. So I used to call that the negative triad when you develop an addiction. It's not only about the reward system or the reptilian brain. You have to understand the pancreas. So now you have this system, and you could add a fourth, which is your microbiome. If your microbiome is very broken, that causes hunger and craving too. So actually, that would be the fourth player in this. So now your body has lost it. Your body is frantically trying to establish some kind of healing and momentum. But if you keep eating sugar and carbs, you destroy that all the time. Your body cannot heal. And that's why once you have an addiction, if you have loss of control over, that if you hide, lie, and sneak sugar and carbs, you have an addiction. But as a nurse, I don't like to treat guesswork. I could today, of course, for many years, I could sit down with somebody that's addicted and ask very specific questions. Have you done this? Has this happened? And I could say with 99% certainty that you're an addict. Because, that knowledge is there, been for years. But that doesn't help the client. They cannot see the picture. So I had to figure out, how do I help them to understand that addiction is addiction, no matter which psychoactive substance you will put in. If it's heroin or sugar and carbs, or how will I reach through the shame, the stigma, and the biochemical denial, which is your brain's faulty wiring, to understand? Because I can't eat for an addict. If I can't help that person that has the illness to change their lifestyle, they're going to die from it sooner or later. So there has to be a way to really show black on white, clear cut, this is what addiction is. And here is your symptoms and your criteria according to the International Diagnosis Manual. And here is the curve. This is your curve. It's when they see their curve, from the first symptom and all the way downhill in this progressive illness, underlying, and on top of that, you have the weight curve, up and down, up and down. That's when, the door open. And so many people cry. Most people cry from relief. It's like somebody is finally listening to me. Somebody's finally asking me the right questions. And so many people have said to me, nobody had ever asked me these questions. Because, most people, medical people, they come to said, how much do you eat? How often do you eat? And that's not a criteria for addiction. The criteria is, if you eat this, how do you feel? If you eat this, what's going to happen? Do you want more? There are so many questions that are so specific. There are 67 questions. So, what's going to happen is that once you hear the questions and they start sinking in, you see, oh my goodness, that's me. That's me. And then you see the curve on with your own eyes that this is my life. And on the curve, we put things like I was depressed here, I was drinking here, I was smoking here, I had a divorce, my mom died. I mean, we put a lot of information in there. And it's very painful. It's not an easy thing. So you have to be certified and trained to, first of all, do the correct diagnosis, but also to do tell the client, explain to them what does this mean, the criteria, the answers, the curve, the dots here and there. You have to know what you're doing because you are maybe for the first time stepping into that person's life very, very close in what they have been having shame for, stigma, not seeing themselves. It's like there's a painful world out there, and you open the blinders, and they see all this. But my experience is that people are grateful. Somebody is finally taking me serious, finally seeing my hell behind my perky attitude. I can do this. I've dieted 40 times. I've lost so much, blah, blah, blah. Oh, now I understand why I was so depressed here, because this happened, and now I understand this. And so it's a very revealing process, and it takes some hours. It's not a quick fix. You don't feel it in yourself. You have somebody guiding you through it. So that's very important. And then the thing with this is, and there's lots of questions all around just the criteria. The important thing is that is giving me a tremendous amount of information about my client to do the best treatment plan or protocol or whatever you're going to call it. Because even though, like an alcoholic, you take two alcoholics, they both have to quit drinking if they want to recover. Everybody knows that. So of course it's the same here, but it's still you and I, when we talked about your wonderful work with trauma, not everybody needs everything. And somebody might need something you and I haven't even developed then. We learn from our clients that Oh my goodness, I don't have a tool for that. What can I make a tool for that? And you start bouncing it off with your peers and your colleagues. If we had this happen, how could we help this person? Because we work with solutions. We work with salutogenesis. We work with health factors. We don't sit and talk about the illness. We map out the illness so we know what we're dealing with. But then, how do I help somebody recover? And then we need to go to the toolbox. And you know that with sugar and carbs, it is very, very early exposure as a toddler in the womb, as a baby. People get these things, children, and the society is very toxic in this way. It's everywhere, the marketing, everything. And also, another thing that makes it very, very difficult is cue-induced craving, which I learned from Paul Early. I love his work and his books. He taught me that 2006, and I thought this is perfect for my clients because they have constant exposure. At those years, we talked only about craving, craving. We didn't see the difference between cue-induced craving, which is of course the most important thing to teach our clients. The PTSD craving, we can teach them later, but they have to, get the tools to stay drug-free. So that's why it's so important to work with relapse prevention and to teach them that relapse is almost inevitable in this society. But that's not a failure, it's a lecture. So, how do we help them to see that? Because I've had many clients relapsing and then they quit because they think, of course, I couldn't make it. I'm the worst of the worst and I'm useless and I'm so bad. And they go home and eat themselves sicker and sicker instead of realizing what is a relapse? How does it happen? What do you need to know to prevent a relapse? If you relapse, what are you doing? I mean, if you let's say, take cancer. If you had cancer and you were treated and you were cancer free, and many years later you got cancer again, nobody would think you're a bad person, right? No. So we have to treat this illness exactly the same. Oh, so this is a relapse. Okay, let me see. How can I help you to improve, your recovery? Are there things in your recovery plan that we need to delete because they're not doing you good anymore? Are there things that's not there that we need to add because we need to strengthen it? And then if you have the sugar at the bottom, because and when we work with these people, denial comes back. Well, I'm not as sick as you. I'm just a little bit pregnant, or sugar addict. So now I've been off so long, I could eat at the birthday party, or I can have a bite here, or it's not that dangerous. I can control it now. And we know all how that journey gonna end up. Crash, bam, boom. And you're back in it. And also it's a progressive illness. So if you fall back, if you have a relapse, it's probably going to be worse than you were active in the first place. So we see that because it's like, the illness, I call it red dog. It's like it's oh, now you have already, first of all, the craving going to come on again like hell. So you really want it. And then you're going to think, I might as well take my chance now once I've already started eating. So I can eat for a few days and then quit. Sure, it's not going to work. And a few days can be, I think the best example I used to tell them is, Judy Wolfe. Judy? Yeah, the 13 kilo, whatever,
80
cheese curd,
pound, the 80-pound cheesy.
80-pound cheese curd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
tell
why,
that story because tell everyone about the 80-pound cheesy story because they might not know what we're talking about.
yeah, I don't remember all the details, but I have it in my new book. I wrote
Okay.
it down and I quote her on some very good tools for spiritual recovery, mental spiritual recovery. She's in that chapter. Uh,
Hmm.
well, she
I'll,
was
I'll, I'll tell
absolutely,
it. I'll tell it really briefly. So Judy had had a long, beautiful stretch of abstinence. She was doing really well, had been a long time, and she was at a party and she saw a cheesy and she thought, oh, I'll just have one. And she gained 80 pounds back. We've all
yeah.
done it. And
And
our
many years in illness again. Very ill.
right,
Yeah.
took her years and years to come back.
I think it was 13 years.
That long. Okay, that
I
I
think
didn't even
so.
know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it was 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the thing with the sugar curve is that that is written in stone. So once you have done it, you carry it with you. So like if you work with an accountability person or a sponsor, and they hear that you start, being lenient or thinking, well, I'm not so sick. I could probably eat this or I could eat this. They said, hey, let's pull out your curve and look at your curve and your consequence list. And that's, wham, bang again. So that, oh yeah, yeah, I'm an addict. And it's a chronic, progressive, irreversible illness. So once you know this is, the way it is, you can't argue it away.
Right, right, right. So, and just going back on your analogy to cancer, that if you get cancer once and it's treated and you think you're good and you're hoping you're good and years pile up and you think, okay, maybe that's behind me, but it comes back. We're not looking less. We don't love that person less, right? They did right, but there's something to be said for, hey, we're going to treat this cancer. And then after that, what were the preconditions that led to the possibility of cancer happening in my body and my life? And that's where you can continue to do the work, which is exactly what you're speaking to, that yes, you can get abstinent, but if you don't keep understanding the underlying issues that might have it come back, that sort of relapse proof your life, it's probably just a matter of time.
Yeah, and it's the same with every chronic illness.
Yeah,
Multiple sclerosis, it's the same thing.
yeah,
If you don't stick to your recovery protocol, the symptoms start creeping up on you. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's the same with once you have a chronic illness, you have to adapt a healthy lifestyle and stick to it.
Just right and hang on to it until the day comes where you feel really good on it. Because there is a real gap between people. I have clients that within 21 to 28 days, holy smoly, they're feeling fantastic. For others, it could be 3 months or 6 months of just low energy, not feeling great. Like, oh, this is worse. I gave up sugar to feel this way. But this is where
You could have clients that feel really well after 21 days or 30 days, and then many of the symptoms come later. They think that they are doing something bad. It's not always that curve of progression goes straight up. It could go up and down, and without them relapsing. And I call that a flare up. And if you read Gorski's Staying Sober, you understand it. It is the flare up, it is the illness in itself that can have some flare ups. It's not that you did something wrong or bad, but adapting a recovery lifestyle helps you deal with that. Like, oop, I'm feeling a flare up. So I better take extra good care of myself now for a few days to handle the flare up. Whether it is depression, whether it is pain in your body, no matter what it is, you can have a flare up without you doing anything destructive. That's
right.
very important to understand because then you don't get scared.
Yes.
You feel miserable. People start always, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I'm bad. No, you're not. You're not. You have a flare up. What's
Hmm.
that? And you explain it. Yeah.
Right. Right. And in those flare up moments, you might have food chatter and food obsession and
Oh,
craving.
yeah. Oh,
And then,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes we don't notice the flare up part. We just notice the food chatter. And we're like, wait a minute, what? But there's other pieces we can broaden the lens and look at them and then work with them.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your diet. So you started on this sort of higher carb diet back in the day, grains and fruits, and you still had cravings, and then you got introduced to a low carb diet, and then it evolved even from there. So I'm curious to know, and you don't love to weigh and measure your food. Now, a lot of programs, do do the weighing and measuring thing. So I'm curious to know, what are you eating in a day, and how do you work with somebody who can overeat whole foods without suggesting a scale?
Well, I was going from a low carb,
Hmm.
pretty liberal low carb at that time because that's all we knew. The beginning of low carb was pretty liberal. When it came to fat or cream or cheese or whatever we had, veggies and all kinds of animal protein and so forth. Um, and I never worked with plant-based food for people because I've never seen a sugar addict handle that very well. I don't have the patience to go on a long journey with them. So, I said, okay, you need animal protein. And then we were going to a stricter low carb. As I told you, I can't remember exactly how many, if it was years or, but for a while. And then we started to take away things like whipped cream, heavy cream. And then we took away cheese. So it was a process over time doing that. And at that time, we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Most of us did anyway. And some people weighed and measure. We advised them to do that, but we had no snacking in between. So that was one thing. That was really strict, unless somebody was very, very metabolically ill. I could put them on 6 meals a day just to stabilize the blood sugar in the beginning, but that was more of a medical food plan. So at that time with the low carb, we had berries. Usually we did strawberries and blueberries. No, not strawberries, raspberries. I'm sorry, raspberries, and because they're very low in carbs, right? So we could do that. And then, later on, and I'm not remembering the years or anything in that way, but I went on a much stricter low carb, and veggies was really only veggies above ground, no starchy veggies at all. So that's what we were eating. And after that, I started to take away more veggies. And in 2016, I think in May, I had pretty much went over to a ketogenic diet, very low carb, and also skipped breakfast. And the reason for that was I love that. I never ever like breakfast. I'm not hungry in the morning. I'm hungry around 11, 12. So I eat around 11, 12. Sometimes 10 if I'm hungry, really hungry. It depends on what I'm doing. I'm pretty physically active. And then also, what we started doing was to use coconut fat or ghee in coffee or tea. So we could use that as a snack, or, if somebody needed something to stabilize themselves between meals. And then usually dinner no later than 6 p.m. So the body has time to replenish, the enzymes and the hydrochloric acid and reset the system, as I call it.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was really good. So that's basically what I've been eating until about February. I had occasional days with carnivore because I was too lazy. And I'm not too fond of fruit or veggies either. So that's never been hard for me to take away. There are
Okay.
some veggies I like, very few.
Really? Huh.
I don't like cold veggies. Well, actually, green peas is the only one I really enjoy eating. Yeah, I could skip all the others. Uh, Asparagus, I love that. But I wrap them in bacon when I fry them. So as a side dish, yeah. But anyway, so that's basically how I've been eating, and so I don't. I'm not a some of those really fanatic carnivores. They don't drink coffee, or but I do. I have no problem with that. I don't trigger on coffee, so I drink my black coffee.
Mhm.
And today I eat 2 meals a day and done for quite some time, long time. Sometimes I eat only animal protein and fat. Sometimes I add some veggies.
Mhm.
So that's what's so nice today. Food is not anything interesting to me. So I understand that some people are very obsessed with food, but my obsession with weight and food is gone through all these years of healing in many other ways. So to me, food is fuel and medicine. So I feel like a car that need to go to the gas station a couple of times a day and fill up with gas so I can run. To think, oh, I like this and I want to eat this. There's one thing I love that I could eat every day, but I don't, and that's crispy bacon.
Mhm. Okay.
That's my big love on earth.
Okay, because there is definitely schools of thought in the food addiction recovery world that suggest that we really do need to have a carb at breakfast and a carb at dinner. Most women do better with some carbohydrate at breakfast and dinner long term for hormone health, for cravings, for stability, for a feeling of satiation. So it's always very intriguing to me that you've been on this path for so long and that for you, you wound here and this is where you have no cravings. But have you ever had occasion to go back to carbs in some way? Like maybe you haven't
Well,
had any slips or relapses that might have flared up your addiction?
no. Uh, but I do add some potatoes in August when we in Sweden eat the famous rotten fish.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can't eat that without a couple of small fresh potatoes. Would be almost criminal. To
Okay,
do
so
that.
from time to
And
time,
I,
you wear
yeah,
them.
and I eat onion. I eat onions.
Okay,
Oh yeah, garlic and onions, and I eat feta cheese and goat cheese.
okay.
Yeah, those are animal protein. I eat lots of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I haven't had that because the hunger and the obsession and the craving is gone. Although, if I come in somewhere and there is a chocolate cake freshly baked on the encounter, my red dog will come out of the cage and start yelling, but I know what to do to get it back in the cage, to put a leash on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only thing. Chocolate is the only thing. I'm joking. I'm going to be 73 this fall in November. So I've been joking for some years, telling people that, well, on my 80th birthday, if I'm alive, I might have chocolate.
No, no, let's say
I know, I
100.
know, I know, I'm joking, but when people ask me if I have done that, that's what I tell them.
Okay, okay, okay. No, let's wait till 100. If you get to 100, bitten, you can have some chocolate.
Well, when I'm 80, I could move it to 90, right? And then I could move it to the 100.
Okay, okay.
To say 100 right now, that's challenging it. I don't think I'm going to be 100.
Okay. So tell me about it, not to overly belabor here. I'm just curious. Tell me about a typical day. Like, what do you eat? Like, what is your first meal and your second day? Let's say when you're including some veggies in it.
Okay, today
Yeah.
I had green peas
Yeah.
and I had some chanterelle freshly picked in my woods here,
Wow. Mushrooms.
butter
Okay.
fried in butter. And I had lamb fillet.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I cook, I always cook a lot. So most days I eat leftovers for lunch or maybe something new for dinner. But usually I cook in the morning so that I have, 4 meals. So I eat the same thing for lunch today, lunch tomorrow, and dinner tomorrow.
Oh.
And it doesn't bother me a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and tomorrow I might eat the same thing, but no chanterelle, only the lamb fillet and butter, extra butter. and no veggies. So that is what I feel for, how
Okay.
hungry I am. So
And
I'm
what
not
what other
rigid.
what other kind of proteins and what other kind of veggies would you eat?
Oh God, I hate talking food. You know that, right?
No, I
I think
don't.
it's the
I
most
did not know that.
boring thing. I
I
think
was
it is
thinking
the
all
most
these years, but
boring,
never actually.
uninteresting thing on earth. But
Lisa.
anyway, I left that long time ago. I eat every meat there is, wild game,
Okay.
meat, red meat, lamb, pork, any meat.
Okay.
Okay. Eggs. I love eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. I eat yellow wax beans. As I said, I can have avocado sometimes. I eat asparagus. I can have occasionally a salad, but I'm not too fond of cold veggies. I don't think it tastes. But then I have red garlic, red onion, and ferrost and olive oil in that as a side dish. I can have that instead of veggies. Uh, haricot vert, I can eat that. Yeah, cauliflower.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can eat that. I love mashed cauliflower.
Okay. Okay. And
I
this is
cook it
really
and I mash it and I have tons of butter and egg in and I whip it. So it's like a mashed thing.
okay. Okay. This is helpful because when you hear low carb and you hear keto, it isn't, that's very practical. There's a wide variety of foods, wide variety of meats, wide variety of
Oh,
veggies,
of
right?
course.
And there's even some creativity. You're adding chanterelle mushrooms with garlic and, right? So yeah, because I had this idea that, oh, she probably just eats a little piece of lamb and I don't know, maybe some
Oh, no, no,
parsley. And
no.
like, I just didn't have a sense of it because
Yeah,
it just seems to me, the people who founded Diet Doctor went on to found Hava,
I know.
right? And their whole thing is that there's bioindividuality in terms of when the body says I'm satiated, but you have a lot of variety in there, and I think it's a misunderstanding to just
Listen, Hava is not for addicts. I'm not interested in any food person not understanding addiction. They can work with non-addicts and harmful users. They bore me to death. My only aim is when it comes to food is for addiction. Whatever other people eat, I don't care. Are you with me? So
yes,
when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about addicts.
yes. But don't you think they would argue, okay, cool, Bitten, but they would say still a human body is a human body, and a human body will cue when it's met its nutritional needs. And you have a lot of variety in your meal plan.
Of course it is, but that's within the addiction realm. But what I tell you, Diet Doctor and Hava is not specialist in addiction.
No, no. But their point is that somebody might need more salad than you, and someone might need, I don't
Yes,
know,
yeah.
and that there's a lot of wiggle room.
That's what we do. We have, all those ingredients that I told you about, but the fuel mix and the type of spices and whatever you use within that is very different.
Yeah.
But a person starting out has to be on a pretty strict food plan in order to, it's like, they're blind, fumbling. So you give them this rod to hold on to in the beginning. But that's what we tell everybody. So in my book, I write about how do you figure this out? How do
Mhm.
you figure out your food fuel mix? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
And some people are sensitive to oxalates. You need to understand that.
Hmm.
Some people are sensitive to anti-nutrients. I have Tamsin Murphy in my book. She's
Hmm.
the world expert on these things. So, Georgia Ede is really good at this. So there's a lot of place where you can go because you give me 100 clients and, I cannot tell them what to eat more than to give them a generic piece of paper and said, start here
Yes.
to start your journey. But I can tell you if you're an addict or not, because to me, that is more important to understand
Yes.
than what they're going to eat. Because if you're an addict and you don't want to understand that, no food plan in the whole world will work.
Say
So,
more about that because I feel like on the one hand, you're saying the food really matters. You have to get it right. On the other hand, you're saying it doesn't really matter. What's most important is that you understand you're an addict. Can you clarify?
sure, absolutely. If you're an addict, you use food drugs, right? You're with me on that one. You have loss of control. You have been trying every diet. You have fought tooth and nail to lose weight. You've gained weight. You have so many consequences. Some have more weight problems, others have more mental problems from eating the wrong stuff, without going into details on those two. But, that is the case because addiction is, a severe illness that gives you physical, psychological, social, and spiritual consequences. It shuts you in all four corners, and your life is havoc. You don't see. And the problem is that the biochemical denial caused by the drug foods makes you not see how things are connected. It might take a year before you hear somebody say, well, when I ate this and that, I did this and that. And you go, no, I understand. It might take years before you reconnect, right? Before there is electricity to all the beautiful rooms in your mansion, as I call it. In the beginning, there's only light in the hallway, the big chandelier, which are those, the reward center and the reptilian brain and the pancreas and, microbiome and so forth. So you have to take away the drug, and that's all you need to know in the beginning. This is what you need to eat in the beginning: animal protein, good fats, and all that is listed in my book and everywhere. There's no. I have a keto beginner's food plan for 21 days, a detox plan. This is how we can start. And then, of course, people have intolerances, people have allergies, people have aversions for certain food. You might have. I had one client eating several kilos of broccoli with sweetener on. That's all she ate for 6 months. She was so sick. You can't believe how sick she was.
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, she went eating broccoli all day long, and she poured sweeteners on it. The worst sweetener you can think of that we had in Sweden at that time. This is some time ago. And then she jogged all night long. She ran out of the treatment center so we couldn't see her, and she was jogging, lap after lap. That's her life. Can you imagine? She was the most gorgeous dentist. She was beautiful and very sweet. But
Wow.
that was her, yeah. So anyway, so of course, you have to understand these things, but nobody will get sick from that generic food plan for 3 weeks compared to what they ate before. But the funny thing is, when they're going to go clean, they become perfectionistic fanatics. And I said, that's another way the illness is keeping you in the illness. Perfectionism and fanatism. That's very, very dangerous. Tell your illness to shut up, eat this, and then we talk. So that's how we start. So nobody gonna get killed by eating that food plan, you know.
Quite the opposite, right? We all know that there's transformations that are
Yeah,
mind
but yeah, but you understand what I mean, and here is where I get so sick of talking food because people wanna, harp about food 24/7, and that is obsession. Is a sign of addiction.
and
So that's
yet,
why I want to tag it down a little bit.
yeah. And yet, it's so important at the same time because people are like, well, what is she doing that she's satiated, that she's like, right? So I think it was very helpful for us to kind of hear. Really, it's a paleo meal plan ish, right? And you're just kind of keep it simple, start there.
Yeah, but no fruit, no fruit.
Yeah.
In paleo, there's fruit and nuts, not in mine.
Okay. You do absolutely no nuts, no seeds?
No nuts, no seeds, no vegetable oil.
No, of course, yeah.
Of course not. Yeah.
Totally. Got it. Okay. Um, when's your book coming out?
Well, I wish I could give you a date, but we are in the very final part of putting the manuscript together
Okay.
and having a quick run through again to make sure, everything is there. And the references is done, page upon page of tons of research.
Hmm.
The book list is done, and the book list, I'm very proud over how we've made the book list. Each chapter has three books in the end, how to read more about this specific thing. But then there's a long book list, and it starts with the first book, many, 90 years ago, Weston Price book. And then books comes in order of publishing date.
Mm.
So it's just for me, I just got the idea. I want to prove to people how incredible much information there have been through the years,
Mhm.
but no breakthrough. There's still people are still shocked when I tell them things about sugar addiction. And I said, well, I read a book 30 years ago about this. And anything else you want to know? I mean, my bookshelf has books, 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 and many of them are very old.
Mhm.
Lick the Sugar Habit, Nancy
Right?
Appleton.
Nancy
Yeah,
Appleton.
yeah. Remember?
I do. And I
Yeah.
I have been carrying these books for many decades. The Sugar Blues,
I have that one too. Mine is yellow.
Body, Mind, and Sugar.
No, I don't have that, I think. Okay.
Oh, this is from the 1970s.
Okay.
Oh, my Lord. I mean, this book's going to fall apart. I really can't even open the.
Yeah.
When was this published? 1951, Bitten.
Yeah.
This was published in 1951.
Yeah.
And you know what the chapter
Beautiful.
titles are? Diabetes, hyperinsulinism,
I
allergies,
know. Yeah.
alcohol and
Why
alcohol.
don't
Like,
you why don't you send the title, mail me the title and I add it to my list?
okay, yeah. Yep, I have that one too. Yep. And how about this? Yudkin, Pure White and Deadly,
Of course. That's a
right?
Bible. That's a Bible.
Bible. And then how about this? Sweetness and Power, The Place of Sugar in Modern History.
I think I have that too. I don't
Yeah,
remember
this was
when I
old,
read it,
old,
but it's
old.
old. Yes, yes.
Let me just see. These are ones I've been traveling. This is not that old. No, no, it's 1985. Not that old.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
30 plus years ago, that's for
Isn't
sure.
it funny? Isn't it funny that we have but because to me, it's been very important because so many people have put up resistance to me for this knowledge. That there is no such thing as, and one professor said to me many years ago, of course you can't be sugar addicted. Sugar is a natural substance, and so is alcohol and cannabis and heroin comes from a plant, right? He was so mad at me.
Hmm.
And he said also that it's like would be like saying that a car is addicted to gasoline.
Yeah.
And I thought,
So
did you buy your doctor's license in the sheep store?
yeah, totally. What do you think drugs are? Drugs are also, well, not all, but many, many are sourced from nature.
Where we have synthetic today, but they
Yeah.
come from plant-based.
Yes, often, often.
Mm.
I'll tell you my story a bit, and I don't know if you know this story. So I read my very first book that I read was The Sugar Blues, and in the back of the Sugar Blue, I threw it in the back of my room because I was like, "What's this? No, what is it? This has nothing to do with my migraines. That's so stupid." My friend gave it to me. She's like, "I don't know, Florence, maybe this will help you with your migraines." And I looked at it and I thought, "That's ridiculous."
That's
Wow,
funny.
you got the yellow cover.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I got
Anyways,
it many, many years ago.
one
Yeah.
day when I had a migraine and I was just in despair, I thought,
Hmm.
What have I got to lose? I'm gonna go read that book. And I couldn't put it down. It took me only 2 days. And how many pages is there? Almost 300. I couldn't go to sleep. I knew there was something in this book. there was something in this book and it just spoke to me and I couldn't put it down. And then I started the journey of getting unhooked from sugar. But in the back, there were references. Some of them were little universities and other books. And that's how I then got to Yudkins and then Body Minds. Anyway, I wrote away to universities and over several years, many years, I'm trying to unhook from sugar. There's no internet, there's no other books other than these. But eventually I thought, I know I'm onto something here. I know sugar's addictive. Like, I don't care if anyone else on the planet doesn't believe me, but I am. I can't be the only one. So I wrote this master's thesis that there's a potential connection between disordered eating in women, sugar, and sugar addiction, that there's some, and I wanted to unpack it as a master's student. So I applied to Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland. It was a two-page thesis proposal. I get over to Dublin, Ireland, and they sit down. For whatever reason, they didn't have you partnered up with this thesis supervisor till you get there. So they sit down with you and they're trying to find the right team of people to oversee your master's thesis. And they're like, "You're what? You want to do what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the proposal." Like, well, we figured there'd be someone in the department anyways. So I'm telling them and I'm showing them little scraps of paper. I'm like, in 1968, there was a study done with mice in Laval University in Montreal that showed definitively that it is an opiate. Here's the little piece of paper. Anyways, long story short, Bitten. The committee says to me, "Listen, we'll get back to you next week. Let's talk more next week." I come for this big meeting to find out, what the next steps are. And they say to us, "Okay, we have bad news for you. You need to pick another thesis topic. There is no evidence to suggest that sugar is harmful to the body, and there is no evidence to suggest that it's addictive." And I was like protesting, "Yes, yes, there is. I have it. I know I'm onto something." And one of the senior guys said, "Listen, you will not embarrass this institution with this topic. End of story. Pick another
I
one."
know exactly what you're talking about. That's
Right?
what I've heard. Oh, yeah. I'm a charlatan. I'm a charlatan trying to help people with something that doesn't exist. That's from an obesity professor here in Sweden.
No.
Well, not the one that said this thing about gasoline.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had so much resistance. I could write a book about that.
Yeah.
I would say bullying. I've been bullied. But
Wow.
many years ago, there was a journalist here in Sweden asking me, about my method and working with sugar, addicts and all that. And I explained to him how it works and what it is. And he said, I totally see what you mean. And I believe you and I understand it now when you're explaining it.
Hmm.
And then he said, but how come you keep working with this when you have all this resistance? So I had to think for a while, and then I said, because I know I'm right.
Yeah.
That was my answer. I mean, there's no other answer. And also, the thing was that I started working with clients. That's what I said in the beginning. I didn't choose this field. I was working with alcoholic and drug addicts, and that was more than enough. But after being over in Chicago and, learning, my thing has always been sharing my story because I know it's going to help a lot of people. So I started telling people when I came back, "Oh, I'm a food addict." That's the term we used at that time.
Hmm.
Well, many use it still. I'm not. But anyway, and people said, "Oh, is that, something that is fancy to say in the US?" They had no idea what I was talking about. And I
Yeah.
said, "No." But then people heard me. And I spoke at meetings when I was out lecturing about alcohol and drug addiction. And then they called me and said, "Can you help me? I'm a foodaholic. And could you help me? Because I said to my doctor that I can't stop eating. And he told me basically I was stupid." And so they start calling me more and more clients. They started coming, and they were on my doorstep. And they said, "Please help me," because it resonated with them. What I told them about, especially the loss of control, which is the thing they felt most shame about,
Yeah.
but which is caused by the drug in your body, not your will. So that's what they started understanding. So that's how the whole thing started. And
Amazing.
then I just pushed through and I thought, I also have been pretty cocky and saying, if you don't understand it, must be because you're stupid or you're on sugar.
Right, you're addicted. You have a
Yeah,
denial
yeah,
protection mechanism in
you're
place.
too heavy into the, jam jar yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Or you are having stakes in the big food companies. That's
Right.
another thing we use.
Or they are so genuinely not on the addiction spectrum that they can't even imagine that somebody else could be.
Yeah, right.
I cannot imagine being addicted to cigarettes. Nothing about them is appealing. And it's not like I haven't tried them, they just didn't do anything for me. So I think, how could
Right.
anybody be addicted to that? Well,
Uh,
there's there's people who
That's me
probably
with gambling. That's if you give me a lottery ticket, I give it back to you. I don't want it.
yeah.
I, it's so totally blank.
Yes.
Nada, nothing. I
Yes.
don't understand people that are addicted to gambling and
Yes.
ticket lottery and gaming, and it just baffles me.
Yes, right. Which is, I imagine for people who totally can't even imagine overeating cookies, going, that's impossible. There must be something else going on. No, honey, you're just not on the spectrum.
Yeah,
It's
right.
very real for
Very
millions
good
and
said.
millions and
Very
millions
good
of us.
said. Very good said.
Yeah. How would you
I
like
agree
to wrap up
totally.
today? I'm so sorry. What were you saying?
Uh, yeah, but that's very well said.
Oh, I see. Well said.
Not on the spectrum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to say that if you have tried everything and you feel good and then you feel miserable and then you feel good and you feel miserable, I think you should muster the courage to contact some of the people doing the sugar diagnostic evaluation and have it done together with a very loving, caring, passionate person that can guide you through the pain of seeing the truth in your life. Because, as we say, the truth is setting you free, but first it will make you crazy.
Yes. There. Okay. Awesome. And tell us again about how people can find that. Can they go to your website and find people that
Yes,
are
yeah,
sugar
yeah,
certified?
help, or they email me.
They email you.
If they email me, I could, and tell me where they live, not because we do everything online, but sometimes it is easier for somebody, in some countries, time-wise, to do the Zoom talk with somebody. Australia is not so good because you have to be up in the middle of the night. But
Yeah.
if you live in Australia, I have people doing it in Australia.
Hmm.
But what I'm trying to say is that, if you're in US or Canada, you could work with somebody over there.
Totally.
Or if it is Europe, people here.
Yeah. Bitten has the leading sugar addiction, sugar carb addiction recovery training program, and she can certify people on this diagnostic tool that she's calling Sugar, which is an acronym. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that. So if you're interested in
Yes.
getting certified in this space and learning more about this diagnostic tool,
Mm.
Bitten's your woman. Just reach out. She'll get you going.
Yeah. And if you're a professional interested in training, reach out.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
can guide you. Yeah.
totally. Wonderful. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Thanks again, Bitten, for your time.
Thank you, Florence, for the incredible work you're doing. Keep
Oh,
working.
thank you. Thank you. I hope you loved that interview. And don't forget that at the end of this summit, I will pull everything together in a wrap up webinar. It usually lasts about 3 hours, and I will share the core insights of all of our speakers and share practical next steps for you so you can make it actionable in your life. And as a final reminder that if you decide to donate to our documentary this year, which we're very, very grateful for because we're super excited about it, you will receive access to our super bundle, which has literally thousands of dollars of free gifts, some of the best interviews over the past 5 years on our summit, and credit in the film, and of course, our unending, enduring appreciation. See you in the next interview.